Hi, you've clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Thursday. Over here in the Atlantic, we're about to have a very interesting day with 3 hurricanes simultaneously going in the Atlantic. This is probably hurricane over here, Carl, that came across the Yucatan, very well organized, has an eye, pressure down to 983. This is probably a hurricane and will be upgraded soon. This is Igor over here, powerful major hurricane, and this is Julia, which is still barely a hurricane. This is not a Cat 2, this is a Cat 1. The intensity estimates for this thing have been absolutely ridiculous ever since it formed, but 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic, and this is going to be really cool to see this happen. The thing that's not cool is that 2 of them are hitting people. This is going to be, Carl's going to be moving into Mexico over here, and this is going to be intensifying steadily as it comes ashore. I think it has a chance to get to a 2, but I don't think it has a chance to become a major hurricane. Conditions aren't quite perfect enough for that, and I don't think it has enough time over the Bay of Campeche to do that, but it is going to be at least a 1, probably pushing Cat 2 by the time it reaches the coast, and Mexico should be ready for this to be steadily intensifying coming on shore. Hurricane Igor is going to be weakening eventually as he comes close to Bermuda, but the models are finally starting to get some verification. This is probably going to come very close to Bermuda, and this would be a very bad storm for them. They can still hold on to some hope that this tries to make a run at 70 west instead before turning out, and that would put the eye farther from the island, but either way, still going to be very bad for them. The radius of this thing is very large, and this is going to be putting hurricane force winds over them for a while. This has the potential to be moving very slowly as it comes around the island over here or over the island, and either way is going to be a very bad storm for them. Probably going to be a lot of devastation. Even if it weakens to a category 2 or so, its winds sustained for a long time can be a lot worse than only a couple hours with major hurricane force winds. So I hope these people are ready for a bad storm and hunkering down for this one. You can see on the water vapor here, trough going by to the north and lifting out. This is what initiated the northwest movement over the last 24 hours or so. You can see this ridge coming back over, and this will be keeping Igor on a more west-northwest track for the next couple of days or so. This shortwave's going out. There's a polar vortex that you can't see coming down out of Canada over here, and this is going to be coming across Canada out over here and really not digging much of a trough. There's going to be a strong jet up here with not much of a trough digging and more of just a weakness between 2 ridges out here in the Atlantic, and this is what is supposed to allow Igor to find its way out over here, find the escape hatch, so to speak. And there is room for this with the zonal flow on top to have this get stuck down here and really meander around, try to come farther west before coming out. Still can hold on to that hope for sparing Bermuda a direct hit, but I think either way this goes, it's going to be close enough to bring hurricane force winds to the island, and it's going to be a bad day for them, or couple of days when this comes around. Really not going to be pretty once this is over, most likely. Now if we look down the road over here at the GFS Ensembles Day 16, by the end of the month, beginning of October, we see the low pressures continuing over the southwest Atlantic basin. If we look at all the precipitation falling in this area, this is the model picking up on the pattern I've been talking about, where we need to start watching this area of the world as we head towards the end of September and into October, which I think may end up being the most dangerous month for the United States. And I want to show you a couple of examples of what happened in some of our analog years. This is 1998, probably one of our better analog years. You can see an active Cape Verde hurricane season had some impact on the North Carolina coast. A couple storms went into South Texas, and a couple of loony storms going out in here. And you can see not much really happened in the Caribbean, and that's been the story so far this year. We haven't had anything in the Caribbean since Alex, really. And we had Carl just develop, but it's been rather tame in the Caribbean this year, and we see what happened after the Cape Verde season shut down, and in October we had Mitch form and devastate Honduras over here, becoming a Cat 5, and eventually came out across as a weaker storm into the Gulf of Mexico. If you look at 1995, crazy Cape Verde year over here, not much going on in the Caribbean. Again, a couple storms in the western Gulf of Mexico once again, but not much going on in the Caribbean. But then the Cape Verde season finally shuts down, and we had Opal form on September 27th and move into the North Gulf Coast, big hitter, major hurricane there, and then we had Roxanne form on October 7th and hit the Yucatan as a major hurricane. So why is it that we see this pattern where we get active Cape Verde seasons and then nothing really happens in the Caribbean during the heart of the season? Well, if we think about it, if we have a lot of hurricanes up in this area recurving and whatnot, what that's doing is these hurricanes that track to the north pull air out of the west to their south over here in the deep tropics, but the trade winds are still pulling wind out of the east over here in the western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And what this does is this causes surface divergence, where air is spreading out at the surface, and the air that's spreading out needs to be replaced. The only way it can be replaced is from above, so the air sinks in this area. You get subsidence, and you shut down the action in here because the Cape Verde action is sitting off to the north and ruining the pattern. The only places where you can really get development are west of 80 west, in the extreme western Caribbean and the southwest Gulf of Mexico, and that is exactly what we have been seeing this year. We had Alex come through here, we had Carl now coming through here, and Tropical Depression 2, and Hermine came out of here, and all this action focused in the southwest Gulf of Mexico is why Mexico has had such a rough year so far, and then the hurricanes all out in here have shut down the deep tropics in the central eastern Caribbean so far. But think about what happens now if you take that lid off and the Cape Verde season shuts down. Then you can really open up this area and you start getting storms like Roxanne, Opal, and Mitch late in the season, bloomers that formed in areas that were previously barren of activity during the heart of the season. Things shift west and they develop and hit people. And remember, the meteorology that we were laying out for you at the beginning of the season in the forecast is still the same. We've still got the same idea where the La Nina has shut down the Pacific with cold water, the cold PDO over here keeping heat focused to the north and not allowing the tropics to get going in the rest of the world. The warm water in the Atlantic means that the heat is focused here in the tropical Atlantic, and this is the place where the atmosphere is going to relieve the heat imbalance that was set upon the Earth during the El Nino this previous winter. And we have certainly seen that because we've had an active hurricane season so far, and that is likely to continue. And what will happen is when all these hurricanes are tracking through this area, you start to cool the water in here. Eventually the Cape Verde season will shut down due to natural seasonal changes. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden this pattern is going to go away. You're still going to have the favorable conditions for the Atlantic to be blossoming with activity, and all that's going to do is once this area of the Atlantic becomes unfavorable due to the seasonal change, the area of favorability shifts west into the southwest Atlantic basin, Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, southwest Atlantic, and this is where the activity will focus. Instead of being out here, we'll simply translate west, and it will be in here. And the concern for this is that once you take the lid off this area of the basin, you're going to have tracks farther west that are going to be able to come up into the United States as troughs dig deeper down and grab these things coming out. And you can see the pattern on the GFS when you start to take the cold PDO and ramp it up and put this trough deep into Alaska. You pump the heights over Canada over here, and then you get residual troughing hanging back. You get trough splits coming off and ventilating the area in here, and you get this area very primed for development and recurves into the United States over here. And this is why it is concerning to see such things being hinted at now by the model. The things and the ideas that we're talking about are starting to show up on the ensembles. The operational run has been showing a hurricane coming up and moving into Florida on almost every run in near the end of the month. So this is something we need to take seriously and be on the watch for. I think October could end up being the month that has the most impact on the United States coastline that we get this season. So I hope everyone's ready for this. And of course, right now, our hearts and prayers will go out to Bermuda as Igor moves towards them right now. That is our concern, as well as Mexico as Carl moves inland. And we'll keep an eye out for future storms. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.